This is the Caribbean Chocolate, the First Lady of 40 Acres, Jocelyn Navarro, and you're listening to Wrestling Cheers.
Taking your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially when you run the show. This is Wrestling Cheers. We'd like to talk about things on the Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene. We preview shows, we review shows, and sometimes we would have interviews along the way. This is a review of the 5th episode of AIW's Go For Broke that you can find on independentwrestling.tv. I am your host, Justin Summers, and Wrestling Cheers is brought to you by the Trending Topics Network and Midwest Territory. Please rate, review, and subscribe if you ever listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and introducing Amazon Music. Fun fact, I've submitted to Amazon Music a while ago and never got confirmation, and then while I was Googling something, I happened to come across a Amazon Music listing for Wrestling Cheers, and I went, what the fuck? But anyway, you can also find us, like I said, on Amazon Music, and of course, Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose, is our WrestlingCheers@gmail.com, and we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Like I said, this is a review of the 5th episode of AIW's Go For Broke on independentwrestling.tv. And if you've been listening the past, this would be the 6th episode, so the past 5 episodes, then you kind of know what's going to happen. There's myself, and we have Charly Butters.
Yes, sir.
And we have Josh Goldstein.
Fired up from my trip to Cleveland, everybody. Very excited today.
Well, unfortunately, we're not really going to talk much about those shows.
Yep. Still fired up. Ready to roll on Go For Broke.
For those asking, I don't 100% know when we will get into the reviews. I'm hoping within the next week or two I can get those out, and those will be bonus episodes, but we will see. It just comes down to planning them and everything, and I haven't necessarily gotten that far just yet. But it's something I definitely want to review, especially with a lot of the things that happened at those shows. It's something we got to dive into, but a lot going on with AIW. We had those 2 shows in the past. We have this show that we're talking about, and of course, AIW next month, June 18th, major announcement, and featuring the AIW debut of Matt Cardona and Smart Mark Sterling, also the return of Brian Myers, and kind of return of Hornswoggle. He's here a lot, but yeah, that's already sold out within about 36 hours,
Something like that.
Like all day Monday, and I think it was sold around before noon today, as we're recording this on Tuesday, somewhere around there. But yeah, if you got tickets, great. If you didn't, you might be able to watch it on IWTV. We'll hear from that later on from AIW, whether that's happening or not. And then, of course, next day, Toy Ohio, featuring the same 4 people, but we already got people coming in for that show. Adam Van from At Odds with Wrestling is coming in for both shows. Looking forward to that. But all that somewhat AIW housekeeping out of the way, let's talk about Go For Broke, episode 5. Jay Gold, what were your thoughts on the episode as a whole?
It was an emotional episode. I think for many reasons, and we'll go over it. It was an emotional episode. It was a high energy episode, which was good too. And coming off of, a high of AIW really getting back into the swing of things, the characters and the players on the show mean that much more as you've gotten to see them in person now, and now Go For Broke is really going along full steam. So it was an emotional and a high energy episode, and I really enjoyed it.
What were your thoughts on the Butters?
It was definitely emotional, and they definitely have hit their stride with everything else. So it's just chugging along. It's good stuff.
I absolutely love these vignettes. We've learned a lot about these wrestlers, and it's something that I've said, for many weeks. So I won't necessarily dive back into it, but hearing a lot of the real life stories with these particular individuals is always awesome to hear. And I generally love pretty much every AIW wrestler. So hearing all these stories makes me love them even more. And this week was no different. Butters, how did this episode start off?
So we got our weekly recap, and then we jumped into the leaderboard, and I have a photo of the leaderboard, so I can actually go over it this week.
I was giving you shit last week, just fucking with you.
Most of it. I had to take a photo this week because there's lots of stuff going on now. The deeper we get, the more we're going to need to talk about this. So, because it all matters now.
The funny thing was, I think last week when I was giving you shit for it, if you went to Jay Gold's Twitter, I think he had a picture of it up, and you could use that.
Yeah, I put it up every week.
Oh man, yeah, I didn't even think to go look.
Thanks.
My bad. I honestly, I'm so busy taking notes. I don't even live tweet the show. I'm busy taking notes for this. So I can't jump back and forth, or I literally just would not be paying attention to any of the show. So I just try to focus on one thing. And then, I'll go back and try to like stuff and retweet stuff that, I agree with or whatever. But I can't live tweet the show and, try to take notes for this. So.
Well, if you did see on this week's leaderboard, Steve Guy was he does his voiceover, of the leaderboard, and this week he actually had to needle Brian Carson a little bit for gambling away his money. If you listen to that, he went something about, and Brian Carson did something really stupid, and he's not on the leaderboard, and he gambled away his money. So that was kind of good that you get that real time commentary of Steve Guy over the leaderboard screen, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, Steve Guy is the unsung hero of this show, man. He does so much for this, and between that and all the editing and everything he throws in, it's just props to him, man. We don't give him enough credit. I think he deserves a buttload of credit for the editing. It's great. They run on such a shoestring budget, and it comes out so professional looking and so ready for TV. So definitely give him props.
Yeah, you want to talk about live tweeting and everything. I live tweet from Wrestling Cheers. I will tweet out any personal opinions too, which is about a handful per episode. I won't go too crazy on it. And then also going back and forth between the Twitter app and the Notes app, where I can have a rundown of the show instead of, because I think it was whatever week 2 or 3. I was just okay, hey Butters, what was next? Because the only thing I had down was the matches. So I need to go, okay, I know Charlie's going to mention all these other segments, but instead of going oh, the match was next. Oh no, there was another segment that I forgot about. Oh, I'm sorry. I sound like an idiot. So I have my little cheat sheet too of, okay, now when I actually asked Charlie, I know what the next segments were. We're just trying to make the show sound a little bit, I would say more genuine or something, basically where it's not just me talking. It's okay, Butters, what are you adding? What's next? Which we can say, if there's nothing on the leaderboard, what was next?
Well, I want to go over what's on the leaderboard.
Oh, that's true.
There's some important stuff here. So we know the Duke is at 3,500. Wes Barkley's and PB and Trey and Dom are all tied for second with 2,000. Biggins Bucks. Eric Taylor and Derek Dillinger both have 1,500. TKD, Philly Collins, Ethan Wright, and Kaplan are another 4-way tie. And then we have Ziggy Heim and Mikey Montgomery, each with 500.
And another conspicuously absent from this is the other tag team champion, Marino T, with 0. That's a little concerning for me that the tag champ does not have any Biggins Bucks right now.
I kind of wanted to go up to them at the shows and be hey, you're supposed to win on these shows. What are you guys doing? What's going on here? But I didn't. I didn't harass them at all. So, but up next, we did have a very emotional vignette with Jocelyn Navarro. Once she started talking, I was paying attention to it. And then she started talking about having breast cancer, and it hit home for me because I lost my mom to breast cancer, and it really got me. So choked me up pretty good.
Yeah, and I think the way they laid it out here, Jocelyn by herself, she didn't have 40 acres with her, and she was very raw, as far as her emotions, and it was. I had written down, you don't see this anywhere else. You literally don't see this kind of emotion and this kind of realism, reality, so to speak. I don't mean like realism, like it's fake and you get like somebody feeling real. You don't get the realness of somebody bearing their soul on any other of these, wrestling shows on IWTV or out there. So it really puts you in a different headspace when you're watching her, and then you really want to root for this person to succeed, and you can be either really impressed or you can be uplifted, or any one of those terms from watching her speak is what that really just laid out for you, and it was beautiful. It was just a really, really nice way to start the show off.
Yeah, I don't know what else I could really add to that. You did hear Jocelyn at the beginning of this episode, and that was not necessarily coordinated. I got that soundbite this past week, and I'm a huge fan of Jocelyn. I've watched her, scratch and claw around this area lately, and then like hearing about that story, just it makes you root for her even more, and I respect her of keeping that to herself, or not necessarily making it a big story for her. So, she's awesome. And I guess that can go into our first match. Started off with Megan Myers versus Jocelyn Navarro. And is this the first women's match?
Yes.
It's the first woman versus woman. The women have wrestled a bunch, but not against each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. We haven't really seen that at all, which it's fine seeing intergender stuff. That's something we're very used to. But here, episode 5, we get the first, like I said, first women's match. Jago, what were your thoughts on it?
I thought it was a good match. I think Megan is a little green, but I think the match was very well done. She didn't overplay the spooky stuff this week. I would have liked to have seen more spooky stuff from her. But good match. Megan takes a beating. I mean, these ladies were not holding back. And, after that buckle bomb that she took from Derek, and what she was doing with Jocelyn in the ring, I give her a lot of respect. She's not in there to sugarcoat it. They really threw at each other, and it was nice to see. It did not feel like, any kind of student match. It didn't feel like, amateur hour, like when you go to some, independent shows and the people are green. It was a good match. It was clean, and the finish was great. I had no problem with a tap out finish. So yeah, I was satisfied with this.
Jay Gold, you always don't have to jump to the finish. You've at least listened to Wrestling Cheers long enough. Normally we kind of maybe avoid talking about the finish until it's hey, we're wrapping it up. We're talking about the match as a whole.
My bad. I'll pull back on the finishes. My bad.
All right, Butters. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was definitely. There were some spots that were a little iffy, but I thought everything else looked really great. And after that vignette, you just can't help but cheer for Jocelyn, and with everything in that match, it was, I saw more moves out of her and stuff like that. So I was impressed. I'm excited to see more. I want to see more.
If I could just say, Jocelyn's music, when we saw her last weekend, she comes out to some really banging music. And the only thing we're missing, I think, from Go for Broke is full entrances. So I'm curious as to what Megan's entrance will look like when she's in front of people. That's the one thing that we're kind of lacking, because her character is as I joke, a little spooky. I'd like to see what she's going to come out to and how she's going to present herself. That's the one thing I feel like we're missing when some of these students or some of these younger wrestlers are out there. because we've seen Jocelyn. She comes out with 40 Acres, and now not everybody. So I'm not gonna say everybody should have seen it. But last weekend when we saw her come out, so I like her music. I like her presentation. I'd love to see Megan's presentation in front of a crowd.
Two things, like when it comes to that. First, we're not gonna get into it, but I can't wait to talk about AIW. Is this something you're interested in? Because the dark match that had Megan, there's a aspect of that match that has to do with her that I want to see more of, and I hope it becomes a thing either later on in Go for Broke, or it just becomes a thing in regular AIW and we'll continue with it, after Go for Broke. I don't want to get too much into that.
Yeah, we ain't ready for that yet. We ain't ready.
But also, I've seen Megan in other companies. If her music stays the same, because sometimes, people change it, especially over time. Her aesthetic that she used, I don't remember the exact song, but was more of kind of like, how some horror movies kind of have these little old, kind of poppy song. I don't want to say poppy, but
Ed's ears perked up here at Poppy.
I know. These older, upbeat songs that are used in horror movies. We're talking old as in probably 30s, 40s old, but it's supposed to come off creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of music she uses.
I like that. That's cool. I'd like to see that. Because
she's, in a way, she's a horror movie come to life, but she's not the regular slasher. She's The Ring. She's the Annabelle. She's all those things come together. And I don't remember the song that she uses, but that's what I remember from it. So if that is what she uses, then yeah, she'll do great.
And Jocelyn came out to some Damian Marley, and you can listen to that on the AIW The Music Spotify playlist. And also, did you update the Apple one yet?
I got to finish updating it, but yeah, it'll be updated.
Okay, so yeah.
We just have a disagreement on whether Shane Douglas should be on there. I'm not putting it on there.
Okay.
But that's just me. In my opinion, he doesn't fit the aesthetic of the playlist.
Stop it.
Hey, you tried proving me wrong, and I'm like, no, well, yes, Guido's only been here a couple of times, but Tracy Smothers has been here a lot too, and that kind of goes with it.
I don't know. Shane's a yearly guest. I don't see what the harm is in putting his music on there.
That's wrong. He was not here last year.
Nobody was there last year. But 2019 he was. I'm pretty sure 2018 he was. He was at Tequila Jack's the one year. He was at the place in one of the temporary homes with Francine, and then he was here this year. So I feel like he's been here enough. He's been here almost yearly.
I still feel like he's a special guest.
Who doesn't love the franchise? Come on.
I love him. I love the theme, but I don't consider it part of the AIW roster. But there are themes that if we put them under the microscope, are they more of a special guest or are they more of a roster? I kind of look at it, if I look at you as an independent wrestler and you've been to AIW enough times, then fine, you'll be on. But if you made your name in WWE, ECW, whatever, I don't necessarily look at it the same. I think Grado was one that I'm where does Grado fit? But I'm at least Grado was an independent wrestler. We could also say the same thing. We just added the main events theme. Technically, they've only been to AIW twice, but we added them after night one.
Yep. I added everybody from the Scramble too. They were on the show officially instead of a dark match. I even added one of the dark match songs because I know that they're going to be a fixture eventually in AIW. They just haven't officially debuted. So, but it doesn't hurt. We can always take stuff off. It's not like a permanent list.
Well,
scientific. That's what it sounds like. It's very scientific.
But anyway, let's circle back around. Let's talk about the finish of the match and continue on.
I was just going to throw out too. I did delete one song off that playlist that used to be on it. I don't know if you deleted off yours. And that's that one group from Indiana that's no longer around.
You'll have to send me the thing and I'll take care of it.
Okay. The finish. Josh, what was the finish of the match? I forget.
Oh man, the finish was a tap out Jocelyn tapped out Megan, and I did not expect Spooky Gal to get tapped out because I figured she would. She took a beating, and you'd have to really give her a good one to knock her out. But she tapped out to. I don't have it written down.
Chicken wing.
Right, crossface. So yeah, good match. Jocelyn gets the rub and the $1,000, and we are on to the backstage.
Well, we have to say that big thank you to our returning friend, Ref Jayhawk, at Ref Jayhawk. He did provide us with times this week, and it was 4 minutes and 53 seconds. Then, Charly Butters, what happened next?
All right, we got TKD talking to Dom backstage, asking for some advice. Dom kind of tells him, gives him some advice, and then Kaplan interrupts and says, "It's easy, Tom. You just got to go out there and fuck him up like I'm about to do." And he heads to the ring.
Kaplan is in the running for Go for Broke MVP. I think right now we're down between him and the Duke. Maybe throw in Wes Barkley there. Which did you guys hear that his segment last week, like the 15-minute segment, is like the most watched segment in IWTV history?
I did hear that. The quarter-hour god.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So a big shout out to our boy Wes Barkley for pulling in the numbers for IWTV. I'm guessing he's going to get his own promo code now whenever that comes back, and he like money will just get funneled straight to him because he's helping build this platform.
And maybe he'll get a shot at that IWTV heavyweight title too, Man,
the line for Lee Moriarty is really building up.
Yes, it is.
All right, then we got into our next match. Kaplan versus Arthur MacArthur. Butters, how'd you feel about this one?
This was pure insanity. Like, you could tell like just how insane it was by like Thorne and everybody on commentary just going crazy as it was happening. This was just holy shit. This was wild. Kaplan is just on this. He's on a tear. I'm going to say it. He's on a tear right now, like between his promos, between these matches. And after this last weekend, like Kaplan is working his way to he's going to be a main event player, I think, in AIW by the end of the year. Like, holy shit.
He's like I don't want to call him a breakout star, but it's like a dude that, has always somewhat been around, but, because of his job and a couple other things, he hasn't been wrestling as much. And yeah, he makes certain pop-ups here, but now, especially this past week and this show, he's just been absolutely killing it. Jay Gold, your thoughts?
Well, so Kaplan introduced us to the intros are now almost like video games. Kaplan introduced us into the trash talking in the little box when Steve Guy introduced him, and I believe he said, let's get this match going. I have 10 minutes and I need to go home, take a shower. I have a date in 10 minutes. I need to go home, take a shower, and be 5 minutes early. He was outstanding. And yeah, Thorne and Wadsworth, I have written down just the glee in their voices as these two mammoth men just hammered each other. And at one point, I think Kaplan did his over the top rope, his it's just a somersault, plancha.
It's a death splash, dude. My God.
What do you call it? A death splash?
He just dives over the ropes.
He dove over the top rope. He missed, he under rotated, and his head made a sound like a coconut being cracked open, falling out of a tree. And he got right back up like nothing happened. And Thorne just goes, "Did you just hear that thud? That was his head. The man just got up like nothing happened." And Wadsworth and him, you just hear it's almost like you could tell they had giant smiles on their face during this match.
Right.
But Artie Mack and Kaplan just beat that piss out of each other. And it was super duper entertaining. It just was a glorious mess. And it was super entertaining, and that's all you can ask for something like this. And the energy was there, and I think even if those guys did that in front of a crowd, you would have just been looking at each other like in scanners, and heads would have just been exploding. It just was that kind of craziness.
Yeah, just Kaplan's fucking awesome.
He really is. He's awesome.
He just, oh man, that Dominator pile driver that he hit just jumped out my seat. I was like, holy shit.
I think Thorne was screaming, he's dead. Arthur MacArthur is dead.
Send him back in time again, man. Holy shit.
He knocked Scott Bakula right out of him.
So will this make Arthur MacArthur crazier?
I think so. I think he's going to end up like even further in the past now. He's going to be a caveman with a box.
I knew that was coming.
After that.
I was thinking just like he can't just go like that far back right now. It's like, okay, he's in the early 1900s, like 1920 or whatever. Like next thing you know, he's going to go back to like the Civil War era, and then after
every head injury, he goes back another like generation to become something else.
Goes back to colonial time.
Oh boy, there's so many places we can go with that.
Yep, that's some good TV right there. I'm telling you what.
But Jay Gold, you kind of got what you wanted. Even I think the way Thorne talked about it, of Arthur MacArthur has to he can't do the character stuff. He has to fight more. And
he did. He went out there and it that's where it works. So that we get a chance to see. Look, Arthur's really he's a good wrestler. He's a really good wrestler. So I can enjoy watching him, whether he wants to do the strongest man, act, or he wants to go out there and wrestle. And I was very pleased with that. I mean, he didn't need it in this match. Kaplan's not going to go for your gimmicks. Like, that's the best part about Kaplan. He's like, I'm going to just go out and kick your ass. And then you go out there and try to give him a gimmick, and he just is like, I'm not doing this. And he just blasts right through you. So, this might have been the perfect matchup to kind of get Arthur focused on what was important, which is, getting those bucks instead of tossing a bowler hat into the second deck.
So it was Kaplan pinning Arthur MacArthur for the win in about 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Once again, that was provided to us by Ref Jayhawk. Butters, what happened next?
We got a Twan Tucker vignette, and it jumped over, talked about him playing football, and then him wanting to try wrestling and everything that kind of came about from that. And he talked about Biggins quite a bit. Pretty emotional again.
Yeah, how can you not love Twan? He's just, the two vignettes, the goodness. Twan is such a good, he just comes off as a good man. And it was just the right, they didn't go into his his aggression when he comes out and he's just like, don't play with me. Like, they didn't have to do that. They humanized him down to what he is. And he's a good man. He's a kid. He's not even that old. Like, he's been through a lot and to get to where he is. And that was tonight's vignettes really just peel back the layers. And you just want to go like through the screen and hug Twan. And, you just want to see him win. And that's, that was the magic of this episode today. So this just kind of, reinforced what themes they were kind of putting on, which was emotional and energetic.
We're all kids to you, Jay Gold.
Yeah. I'm a bit older than you guys.
Also, before I forget too, did you guys notice anything in the Jocelyn vignette?
Oh, you mean that photo that was credited to Wrestling Cheers?
Yes.
I did see that.
That popped me. And I think it's funny because there were a few pictures from these past shows that I took on Twitter, and people used them without giving me credit. And I was like, I'm not diving into that bullshit of what we saw on Twitter with fucking Chelsea Green. I'm like, it's whatever. But my only issue is some of the people who did do that, because I was like, they just pulled it off Twitter. It's whatever. And then I see them post like another picture from the show and give whoever took it credit. I'm like, you motherfuckers. Like, what the fuck is that shit? But
what'd they do? They took pictures of you and a couple of wrestlers and cut you out and just used the wrestlers?
No, like pictures that I took from, on Wrestling Cheers.
Yeah. No, I was just busting your balls.
All right, listen here, Grandpa. It's like past midnight, and I'm like, I don't even know why you're up. Like, aren't you about to wake up in about 2 hours?
I am.
Don't you have to get to the diner for the early bird special?
Oh my God. Off the rails.
All right. Yeah, I do love Big Twan, like back to him. And this is where I put out a tweet and it kind of came back later on too. And I was like, it's 100%. And it's one thing I've noticed with a lot of these vignettes is we get a lot of talk about Biggins, and it's a theme that I do love because what I had tweeted out was like, we all miss Biggins and I wish he could see all this. Cause like we just hearing like everybody talk about him, like always, I mean, it makes me happy, but makes me sad at the same time. And something that I don't know if I've said here on the podcast before, but like the picture they use with him and Faye is the last memory I have of him, because that was taken at the last girls' night out. And I want to say that picture was taken like not that long before I walked out the door, because Biggins was in his regular, spot, like right there by the door. And they're packing everything up, and like Faye came over, and I want to say, Caden's grandpa took that picture. And for me, like that just lives in my head. And every time I see it, and even actually every time I think of Faye, like I think of that picture. So like throwing that in the package, like made me, like I said, like, kind of like happy, but sad at the same time.
Yeah, I think one of the great things that they are kind of starting to unveil to us with the series going further, talking about Biggins, is because this is going towards the Chandler Biggins Memorial Tournament. So obviously we need to, kind of memorialize him and discuss him and explain why this tournament is so special to everybody and why they're really fighting to get into that tournament because of Biggins. So I think that kind of all ties in when you really kind of break it down and look at it. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that's going forward. If we see more of that, I think that's, a good route to get everybody invested in and understand why this tournament means so much to everybody, rather than just, a means to an end or a title shot. It's more than that. So, and
of course too, like it explains like who Biggins is for Biggins Bucks.
Right.
Like we kind of forget, like, I mean, we're in like our own bubble here, that people could be watching this from other states and like they didn't know who Chandler Biggins was, and they don't understand what these Biggins Bucks are. Far as they know, it's just a weird way to say money. I don't know, like I said, not everybody knew who Chandler Biggins was. So yeah, I do love them highlighting it. And then we got on to our next match. Big Twan Tucker versus Casey Carrington. And I mean, this match went on a little longer than I thought it would, but still pretty quick match. Jay, go over your thoughts.
I like Casey Carrington a lot. And I just love Twan. And it just was, Casey Carrington has gotten beat up during Go for Broke, and he got beat up again tonight. And I like watching Casey Carrington get beat up. It's just funny. But yeah, simple, like what we want it to be. This is what you should do with Twan.
Butters.
Yeah, Twan he's coming off a loss from, I believe it was the first show. So he had to obviously step it up here. And, Casey's also had a loss as well. So this is going to put one of these guys on the board. And yeah, it's good stuff.
I think you need a smaller athletic guy to showcase Twan's power. And the one thing that AIW has gotten right during the show is when they do put on, squashes, so to speak, squash matches, or whatever we used to call them. When I was a kid, we used to call them scrubs matches, whatever. When you put in a match with a seasoned guy who, should intelligently be the winner, and you want to make him look big, especially a guy with Twan's sheer size, you put him up against somebody who can kind of move, who's more athletic and can move around, and they've done that very well. So the matchup itself was kind of the perfect way to showcase Twan, get him back where he needs to be.
And Big Twan Tucker got the win. What happened next, Butters?
We got a Time Capsule Toys commercial.
Hell yeah, we did.
And then after that, we got Twan coming through the curtain saying he's ready to take on anyone. And then we ran into the Duke having a little strategy session with the Bitcoin boys. And it was interrupted by Rip City, Josh Bishop, and Wes Barkley. And they say that they'll help Bitcoin get the win tonight and win the belts if they get the first title shot. Duke says he might take the belts off Bishop, and they basically shrug them off, so they don't need their help. What Rip City goes out to the hallway, and they say, guess they can make that not happen as well. So, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and looks like they might get involved in the main event.
And the rumor is the rating shot through the roof during that segment. As a matter of fact, as soon as the door opened and Mr. IWTV, Mr. Tuesday Night opened the door, Wes Barkley, the ratings went skyrocketed and became the quarter hour, just won the night at that spot.
It's still early. We're waiting on the final count from that, but it is pretty close.
Yep, the overnights that we're getting here in the Wrestling Cheers War Room, in the strategy room, we're seeing the ratings are looking good.
With confidence, we can say that it was again the highest rated segment.
But I like the fact that now you're starting to see some fractures. I like that you're seeing. So to see the two, as we started to say earlier, the two MVPs that are really clearing out of this show, Wes and the Duke going at it. I like seeing the talkers kind of war of words with each other, and maybe Duke is maybe they're starting to make enemies where he really shouldn't have done that. And I like what is coming out as far as the interactions between the higher end, the winners, the guys who are up on the top of the leaderboard. You start to see a little confidence. You start to see, maybe some miscalculations, some cockiness. And I think that's very cool. And the writing has been so good for the show that you can, gives us a way here to analyze the fact that, maybe Duke is getting a little overconfident. So that was a cool segment.
Though that segment made me want to see the Duke actually win it all and then challenge Bishop for the absolute title. Could you imagine the murder scene that would be the Duke's death?
Yeah, I believe Bishop actually commented on that.
I mean, he's a monster. Bishop's aura and his the way he carries himself. You couldn't get a better heavyweight champion than what they package Bishop as right now. I mean, he's young, he's powerful, he looks like $1 million. He's gigantic. I mean, you can't package a more perfect champ for your company right now than what Bishop looks like. I mean, you can look around the indies at the titles, the guys who have the titles. It's fine and all, but look at just the presentation of Josh Bishop and the evolution of what he came from. It's unbelievable. It's top notch. It's how you want your champion to look. So every time he walks in the room during the show, the lights he swallows the room with his person, like with his aura. He just comes across as that kind of champion. In my head, I can't fathom one guy who's going to beat him right now. And I love to say, I think Derek's going to win it all, but I can't fathom how. I don't know how you're going to get the belts off of Bishop. He's a monster.
I got to wonder how long, on a side note, that it'll be until Bishop loses at least the Intense title. Like maybe there's all right, we have to take this away from you, or you got to forfeit it or whatever. I mean, I'm not 100% sure if that will happen, but if it does happen, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, you might have to defend both of them in the same night in separate matches. I mean, they could do that. Lots of things they could do.
I agree more with Summers. Remember the Ultimate Warrior dropped the IC title after he won the heavyweight title. So, I mean, maybe one day they'll have Bishop say, look, I'm not going to defend the Intense belt. There's no reason to. I'm the heavyweight champ. And then you can throw that Intense belt, into a title scene that is loaded with talent. So, who knows where that's going to come from. But the way he looks now, nobody can beat him and nobody should beat him.
I feel like if they were going to do that, though, they should have done that off the rip instead of having him actually defend it multiple times as the absolute and Intense champion. I think if they just do that all of a sudden, I don't know. It doesn't make as much sense.
That's true. I was just looking for an out, to kind of.
I mean, if that's what they want to do, absolutely. There's a lot of fun things. Like we kind of toyed with the idea over dinner on Friday about maybe, Wes Barkley is put in a match against Josh Bishop for the Intense title and they redo the Shawn Michaels Triple H.
Aha.
All kinds of fun stuff you can do. I mean, we may never see any of that. They may just, have the 2 belts. And then I think the more interesting thing would be for him to have to start defending them individually multiple times on the show. Cause then you never know if he's actually, if he could drop the belt or how he's going to retain. And then he's going to have to go into another match later on. It'd be very interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus, we get to see more Josh Bishop on the show, which I'm all for. So,
Where did we go with that tangent? I think was that talk about the Bitcoin.
That was just the segment. Yeah, that was just the segment with the Bitcoin boys leading into the next match.
I was looking at my rundown. I'm like, where the fuck did we? Oh yeah, the Bitcoin boys and Rip City Shooters segment. Okay, let's move on to our next match. Ziggy Haim versus Brian Carson in a fairly short match. Did I say the length of the Big Twan Casey Carrington match?
I don't believe so.
That was 1 minute and 56 seconds. This was also a pretty short match. Or your thoughts on it, Jay Gold?
It kind of came out of nowhere. I always love seeing Derek on the show. And Ziggy. This match kind of didn't fit the format of tonight. Seeing, I get that Carson needs to get his win back, like he's looking to get some money back, and they went over that. But the match just kind of popped up, So it didn't fit at that segment, but it was, I get what they were trying to do. Carson was trying to reestablish Carson to get his money back, and he thought he could maybe get an easy win over Ziggy.
Butters.
Yeah, it seemed like, I thought it fit fine because, we know we're going to have multiple matches on the show. So, like, this one was just no real story to it other than, Brian Carson. We're kind of getting back to him and his saga of winning and then losing his money. And then, Ziggy kind of just going with the flow and getting that roll-up win, man.
I like that that they can put Ziggy into those matches only because, Derek kind of has her on almost like she's almost like a pit bull on a leash. And she just, like, you saw no hesitation in her. And that character is kind of cool. Like, Brian Carson's like, you just see him in the corner. He's kind of talking to himself. He knows he messed up. And, then they go over to Ziggy and she's just game. You could just tell. You look in her eyes, you're like, yep, she's coming in and she is going to take, something's going to happen and Ziggy doesn't care. She wants to fight. And I like that. That part of her presentation is very cool.
It was Ziggy Haim rolling up Brian Carson for the pin and the win. And I don't know if this is a coincidence or just how Jayhawk timed it. This match was also 1 minute and 56 seconds. I had to double check his tweets when I was writing this down. I'm like, did I put the right one? Oh no, they were both 1 minute and 56 seconds. Butters, what was next?
Up next, we got another Dom vignette, this time about Chandler.
Yeah, this kind of goes back to what I was saying of how, like, we all miss Biggins and I wish he could see it. And then once I saw this, like, it just reiterated the fact for me, like, yeah, we all fucking miss Biggins. And I'm like, I don't know if that comes off like a knock, but to me, I'm not. It's something that we all share, and I'm happy that it's getting told.
You made a really good point earlier about how now you're starting to see Biggins incorporated into the vignettes and how he affected people. Mm-hmm. I never met him. So, like, I wrote something small on Twitter about it. And I was saying, how even though I never met him, the stories and the way these guys feel about him, these guys and girls, is nothing short of remarkable. The way you all, even from the fans who have, personal interactions and like Summers' interactions and the amount of emotion that is evoked when you bring up this person, even from like Kevin Steen, I remember when Biggins died, when I just started, following AIW and I saw the information on Twitter, everybody was just devastated, to now where every single memory is this positive, wonderful story that everyone smiles over. And this vignette really captured, for anybody who didn't know him like myself, you just see as they keep bringing him up, there's just something remarkable about what he did for this community, and it's an amazing thing, and it's a very genuine thing, and I'm very happy that I was able to watch that tonight. It added so much to the story, and it added so much to who AIW is as an organization and as students. So, I'm an emotional guy. I look for things like this to kind of uplift my spirits, and just hearing how everybody talks about him is extremely uplifting. So, take for that what it is, but I think I needed something like that. And I liked it a lot. And all this darkness for the last year and whatnot, the Biggins tournament, the amount of energy and joy that you get out of talking about this person, it's needed, and it's wonderful.
Any more on that segment?
Nope.
Butters, what was next?
So we had Carson backstage upset, and in the green room, he's trying to challenge Artie, Riley Rose, making his return, and Kaplan. There's some good lines in here. I didn't 100% catch some. I know Kaplan had another really good line about like needing to go on his date in 20 minutes or something like that. I know Carson mentioned something about like at least if he was on like his commentary partner Wadsworth would have his back. He was basically challenging everybody for their money. Frankie was standing behind him. Frankie Flynn was standing behind him the whole time. Finally, he says that he'd wrestle Carson next week. Carson says Frankie doesn't even have any money, and he storms off.
Frankie's crazy looking.
He is
crazy looking. Every time he comes, the hair is so thick and full, and the beard, he just looks insane.
It's something that I've said about him before, that you could take pictures of Frankie and you could tell like where it was in his career, because how he's changed himself so many times in a short amount of time. And I'm really starting to love this version of Frankie. For a guy who was, kind of on the sideline for a while, and to get into it like this, and then like with the beard and the hair, and like, I can't wait to see more of him. And there's more of him, but we'll talk about when we review AIW. Is this something you're interested in? Because there's something from that show that I saw that I really liked, and we'll get to that when we get to that. All right, let's get on to our next match. Next up, we had TKD versus Ethan Wright. Butters, let's start with you. What was your reaction?
We got to see Ethan Wright work some more, and he's slowly growing on me. TKD, of course, had some interesting offense that, we've been kind of seeing from him. His leg scissor pin that he does is reminds me of, RVD used to do something similar. And it's very, very interesting. It always sticks out to me every time he like launches into it.
How about you, Jay Gold?
Yeah, I mean, I the match to me went a little too long. I'm not sure who was supposed to get the proverbial rub from this match. I know TKD was asking, Dom what to do or whatever. I don't know. In Go for Broke, Ethan Wright's not popping for me just yet. He did a lot better for me last weekend, and that's something you'll cover, into the week whenever you do your review. But the way he's presented here, there's just something missing for me for Ethan Wright. I think we'll talk about it in a minute. I think it's coming. I think there's a piece being added to him that I like where it's going. But for this match, it was okay. It was all right. I mean, I like TKD as a from his personality. It was just a match to me. It needed to get Ethan Wright over, and that was that. So yeah, that's what I got on that one.
I do think it's kind of interesting that on commentary they did put over the fact that TKD could be injured and not be able to further compete to get more Biggins bucks to get into the tournament. So I think that might be maybe a storyline they're going to play with down the road. And, how does that angle affect, him getting into the tournament now that he's injured? So that could be very interesting to see if he comes back and is able to secure enough wins, if he's going to try to fight injured. Could be an interesting story for TKD.
It was Ethan Wright making TKD submit for the win. What happened next, Butters?
So we get an Ethan Wright promo coming out of the match after he comes back through the curtain. I didn't paraphrase it or anything like that. I just wrote down that it was a promo. It was a pretty decent promo. And then we had Duke and the Bitcoin Boys kind of standing off, waiting for their match. And Ethan Wright walks by them. Duke stops him, says he's watching them, and he says he did a good job. So,
well, we get another Duke as my MVP line, where Ethan Wright comes over and he goes, "Ethan, right?" And I thought that was hilarious. Duke's line, some of his one-liners just kill me because his delivery is spot on. And sometimes he comes off as a grumpy old man, and sometimes he comes off as a villain. And like when Ethan Wright came over and he goes, "Ethan, right?" He came off as like the grumpy old man trying to make a pun type of thing. And it just worked so well. And that's the layer that I was talking about. Like, that's what I think Ethan Wright needs. He needs a mouthpiece and he needs a direction. Because I don't see what it is without it. I know he's Harley Race's student. Okay, I get it. Now what? What else are you going to do for me? So, I like Duke kind of scouting, and I like because Ethan Wright looks great. Physically he looks great. So I like what he might be able to do if he links up with the Duke.
Which is something that I pointed out, in the first episode? I think it was, where we saw Ethan Wright and the Duke talking to each other.
Yeah.
And we kind of seen something of it at AIW. Is this something you're interested in?
Mm-hmm.
Which, when that happened, I was like, right there. So now we're seeing it on Go for Broke. So
yeah, because I didn't even feel like surprised when he came out with them. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He was talking to him. I was like, I felt like this is where it was kind of going. Makes sense. Like, yeah, I didn't even question it at that point.
It just works. It fits perfectly. He looks like he belongs with them. It works really well.
Duke is that kind of guy to have that kind of stable. It makes absolute sense. Why would he not pick up somebody that has the pedigree of Ethan Wright and then, manipulate him? That's what he does.
Yep.
All right. What was next?
We got that J-Lit 2019 commercial.
That's never going to get old for me. I fucking love it every time.
Yep. I'll never forget Tom dancing on top of the Odeon. What a night.
I'll never forget those 2 days that Marco Stunt wrestled in AIW, and I never thought those days were ever going to happen. He may never come back, but hey, I still have those 2 days. And he beat Tim Donst. That surprised me. All right, let's move on to the main event. PME versus the Bitcoin Boys in a non-title match, and if the Bitcoin Boys won, they got a future AIW tag team title match. Butters, what were your thoughts on it?
All right, so when Bitcoin was getting their little entrance type thing, Duke did double guns, and I'm pretty sure it was Philly. You could hear Philly on the other side of the ring called him Shooter McGavin, and I lost it. I was dying laughing. That was really fucking funny. And then the match was, pretty good until we got some interference.
Calm down, Jay Gold.
Okay. But yeah, the match was really good. They were kind of getting into it, and this was the winner get if PME lost, the Bitcoin Boys got a title shot out of it and told a good story. It was pretty good.
Jay Gold, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, you know me. I get excited when AIW's champs get on every time. So that's the best part about Go for Broke. Every time the champs are featured, they're portrayed properly. So, Philly and Marino having a non-title match, I honestly didn't know how it would go because the Bitcoin Boys have been so prominently featured and their careers have really taken off that these are one of those matches. You just look forward to it. It's got a big fight feel. The Bitcoin Boys, the crap talking in the little boxes when they're announced is awesome. I like that Kaplan started doing that. I think everybody should have like one little one-liner, almost like a Mortal Kombat, like the guy has something to say in his little box type of thing, or whatever that WCW game was where Raven had something to say in the little box and each guy had something. I I thought it was great. It was really entertaining for the time that it was on television. The timing of the match. We'll get into the end there, but those four work really well together. I got to say, and I don't know if you guys, you probably agree with me or you just have always noticed it, but Mikey Montgomery is damn creative in the ring. He is super creative. He does some really innovative spots that I haven't seen out of tag teams, and he's willing to really put his body on the line. And I'm very, very impressed with Eric Taylor. I don't know. I'm not insulting Mikey, but I do think Eric Taylor is a standout. And yeah, I mean, the match was great. I was very amped up watching it.
So let's get into the end of this match. And I like how this happened. You have Josh Bishop coming out and choke slamming and power bombing Mikey. And also, or maybe he choke slammed Eric. I can't remember exactly what it was. Just decimated the Bitcoin boys, grabbed Zave, throws him.
Zave had the bump, right? So he got knocked out before Bishop came out.
Yeah. And just grabs Zave and throws him by the pin and then just leaves. And
the unexpected save of the tag team champions by Bishop and Wes. You didn't expect to see the shooters go after the Bitcoin boys. So we talked about that earlier with Duke might have been, overplaying his hand a little bit and telling, maybe he insulted the shooters there. And Bishop, I mean, come on. Did he not look like I know they call him Baby Sid Vicious, but did he not look like a monster just stalking into the ring and just destroying everybody in it? I mean, that's how you get the champ. That's what I meant by I can't see how anybody beats this guy. When he's like that, the wet hair is flying all over the place. He's power bombing people. He picked up Xavier by his belt and carried him around like he was, like a Bijan.
One hand.
I mean, it was. I mean, the power, the strength, the way he was presented. That's how you present your champion. Unreal. It's good stuff. Bishop is he is all the parts that you want, and you have the mouthpiece at the bottom, and then they do that camera shot where they're shouting into the camera. I mean, the shooters are TV made. They're always TV made. But that was a very interesting ending. Where PME really didn't know what was up and down on that one.
I liked it because it means we're eventually going to have that match again. And the thought that I was getting watching the Bitcoin boys versus PME is, in a way, it's definitely not 100% parallel, but in a way, this match, PME versus Bitcoin boys, is very much like Bishop versus Justice. I think it's a match we're going to see a lot in AIW, and they're basically going to have a feud. This is something that started probably end of 2018, beginning or end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
2019, Hell on Earth, they had a match against each other for the belts, and that match was awesome. I knew once that match happened, I was I'd like to see that again. I even think I tweeted that I'd like to see them go at it again. So it was cool to see that again this week, and could definitely see some more of that. Like Jay Gold said, Mikey is just leaps and bounds. He is so good, and I'm really impressed with everything he's been doing. Eric Taylor too. I really like both of them a lot, and but Mikey just really showed a lot with the even from this past weekend, which you guys will talk about down the road. But he really, really impressed me with these shows this last weekend. So,
I mean, I could do all. They could do a triple threat tag match, and I would be super excited. You put the Rip City Shooters in there, and then you have a star explosion for your main event. All six of those guys are stars, and with the Duke on the outside. If one day if Brickster ever came back, or whoever the next member of Rip City Shooters might be one day, they might have somebody. But I mean, you set up, there's so many ways you can go. The Bitcoin boys could want retribution to go after the shooters. The PME can say, you guys didn't get a fair shot at the end, so we're going to give you another one. Or PME could go after, the shooters and say, we don't need your help. I mean, it's big time. All six guys are big time, and you set up for the future lots and lots of good stuff.
At least PME is on the board now.
Yeah, well, Marino is now $500 richer, and you have Philly, I think, at $1,500. So, yeah, at least you have both members of PME on the board.
Because of Josh Bish's interference, it was Marino Tenaglia pinning Mikey Montgomery. That was the show. Any final thoughts on episode 5 of Go for Broke?
I mean, I'll just say it again. It was emotional, and it was energetic tonight, and you had both of those pieces, and it made for really compelling television tonight. We're getting different styles of shows every week. I mean, if you remember, Justin, like week 2, I said it was like ECW on Sci-Fi, and then you have this week where you have emotional and energetic, and each week you have something different the show offers you every week. The format might be the same. Maybe the rules might be the same, but the format comes out differently every week. And that's all as fans you can ask for, that it doesn't get stale. And it has not been stale for 1 second. And I have not been underwhelmed with any of the episodes yet.
How about you, Butters?
Every week it gets more and more fun, and we get deeper into this, these matches for the tournament. And I'm so excited. Just every week we get to do this. It's great. I'm loving it. And I can't wait to see what we get next week.
Yeah, I agree. I continue to love the show. Kind of make sure I'm home, obviously, especially to make sure I watch it for the show. But it was something I was going to try to watch live anyway. And it's fun that, we get to do that with AIW. Got to watch all these other, companies do live shows that maybe should say live shows that are weekly. And granted, like, this isn't live, but still it's a world premiere, and we get to all enjoy it together. So it's really fun. And that's, I think, why a lot of us want to see it come back after it's done. Like, maybe it's a yearly thing or whatever it is. It's still fun to watch.
It also feels like when we're watching it, like in real time, it really feels like a community is watching it all at once. And that's a really cool feeling. I don't know if you feel it while you're looking at Twitter or whatever, while you're taking notes, but it feels like we're watching it as a group. And that's pretty awesome. You don't get that with every TV show. It has a very Walking Dead, Game of Thrones type of like community watch. Everybody seems to be in Cleveland, looking at their IWTV at 10 p.m. So that's pretty neat. And I like being a part of it.
All right. Any final thoughts or last minute plugs before we go? J Gold.
None. JGold12 on Twitter. And I again, guys, really happy to see you all last weekend. It was wonderful. You guys gave me reason to smile again, and I appreciate that.
How about you, Butters?
I got IWTV Guide. We reviewed New Texas Pro Wrestling Astro World this week. Next week is our 1-year anniversary show. We're going to be covering the Big Starks brand mini tournament that they did. Never know who could pop up on there as a surprise guest or anything like that. So that could always be fun. You can find me on Twitter at Charly_Butters. You can find the podcast at IWTV Guide on both Twitter and Instagram. That's all I got.
And of course, you can find myself at JSummers330 on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, much like you can find this show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/Wrestling Cheers, Twitter.com/Wrestling Cheers, Instagram.com/Wrestling Cheers. Email, if you so choose desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. And we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Like I said earlier in the show, please rate, review, and subscribe your ever listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. And you can find all the links for all the social media and every place you can find the show in our link tree in this episode's show notes. You can also check out our friends on the Trending Topics Network, such as All Beer Inside, Eurovision Showcase, The Spanish Announce Table, and Wrestling with Altitude. Check out our other podcast friends, such as Pod Van Dam, Super Fantastic Podcast, It's Evolution, Baby, The IndieCast, Sobros Network, Biff Radio, Off the Hop Rope, Game Marks Podcast, We Like Sports Podcast, Powerbomb Jitsu, The Spotlight Series, Fully Posable, Doing the Favor, Positively Pro Wrestling, IWTV Guide, At Odds with Wrestling, Best in the World Podcast, Marks with Mikes, Dark Match Podcast, and Porch Talk. Check out our other non-podcasting friends such as The Store Jobber, The Savage Stash, The Mystery Men, Redline Radio, Mouse's Wrestling Adventures, VHS Party Tonight on Instagram, Happy Hour with Steve Guy, the co-host Wrestling Show, Good Company, Toy Hio, Time Capsule Toys, Stay Tough, Smokin' Jay's Barbecue, Wrestle Void, Midwest Territory, Southern Underground Pro, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name. And we'll talk, pal. Later.
It's the Wrestling Cheers. Get up on your feet, brightening your day in the middle of the week. And you gotta love the show. Yeah, you know it holds a title for the best podcast talking wrestling in Ohio. Finishing a cold one, take a load off. We ain't all about the prohibition like Josh, so we cheers. And then we sit back. Other shows are in the trash, kinda like they Nick Stapp. Like the name is Matt Justice, wearing all the gold. Wrestling Cheers is coming to a close. The #1 podcast going in the game. And one day everybody's gonna know the name. It's the Wrestling Cheers. This is Platinum Max, signing off. Ohio, good night. The world, good night. We love you. We'll see you next week.